So how did you get started?
Okay. Okay. Well, I get started as a consultant. I'm a consultant, also a professor. Alongside consultancy, I also teach at undergraduate and postgraduate level, occasionally here in London. And as a consultant, I started 30 years ago. Uh, Before being a consultant, I was working as an accountant, auditor, and also cost analyst, and also, well, a specialist in merger and acquisitions for a while. But before this, obviously, I was studying at university. But after being an accountant, I started advising companies on international trade. I have been advising company on import-export activity for nearly 30 years. Over the last few years, because I started researching for my book, The Art of Compassionate Business, on the non-traditional aspect of business, such as generosity, gratitude, forgiveness, kindness in the business environment, we started training companies on non-traditional topics. For example, how to become more playful in the work environment. Why playful is so important? Because according to research, playfulness brings about more creativity. When
Yeah.
people are more relaxed, when they connect to one another in a much relaxed way, in a much more informal way, when they let their hair down and they can socialize, they connect emotionally and mentally, according to research, people are more prone to have creative insight.
Yeah.
So, and we started over the last few years, started training companies, and now what we do in practice is the two areas. International trade, we keep this is the traditional training and advisory and consultancy, and the second area, second business unit is training companies on non-traditional topics such as compassionate workplace, compassionate customer service.
Yeah.
Many
Oh,
companies are horrible with the customer service approach. And this is probably a very interesting training because it's one of the best selling training because I see so many mistakes in business of companies, how they approach customer in the wrong way. And then instead of attracting this customer, they push other potential customer away. So, and my background is international marketing. I have a master degree and a doctorate in international marketing. And so I like all this topic about also customer service, how to serve customer much more effectively, and so on.
nice, nice. So you said you have a doctorate degree in marketing, and what was the other one? Management.
Management will focus on international marketing, and the master is in international trade, international marketing.
Okay.
So yes, but I wanted to comment about now we are talking about marketing. I
Yes.
wanted to mention one example of how mistaken companies are. We advised the other day a company that is very popular. I don't want to give the name because we have a confidentiality agreement, but very popular. And this company that is successful in practice have a very important mistake that we detected, and probably they are likely to correct. That is a system of commission that try to motivate employees to get a percentage of their sales, and this is up to them. It's okay. Up to there is okay. Commissions are very common in the sales team. But what happened? What we observe some members of this sales team acting in practice, and what we observe that they try to sell the most expensive product to customers, not the product that customer need, in order to have a higher commission. This has a name, the technical name called hackterism, that is trying to focus on your own objective as salesperson instead of trying to serve customer more efficiently. When we highlighted this this mistake, the managers were a bit surprised because they took this for granted. This was the culture of the company. I'm not sure they will be able to change. But what is the approach that we suggested? An alternative approach. I told them, instead of selling product to customer, instead to selling product to customer and trying to sell the most expensive one that might not need, try to change the approach. Try to adopt a serving attitude. Instead of a selling attitude, a serving attitude. A
Yeah.
serving attitude is you focus on customers. You focus on their needs. First, you discover their needs. You support this need with your expertise, your experience, your background, and then you try to see if there is a match for the customer. So this
Yeah.
means that you try to make customer feel satisfied, delighted. And if so, you recommend the product. If you don't have any product, you recommend that this company should go to a competing company. This is okay, because if you cannot serve this customer effectively, other company will do. But do not try to force this customer into buying a product they do not need, because customer is prone to become resentful, regretful, because they feel deceived, they feel casual, they feel tantalized. And this customer not only will run off your company, run away from your company, but will push other potential customer away. Customers do not want to be manipulated. They understood this very clearly. As you see, there's very simple tips, but important.
Absolutely.
And hopefully they will change, but I feel also that they have a challenge, because this has been ingrained in the company's culture for such a long time,
Yeah.
that in some cases it's difficult to overcome these hindrances. But this is a good example of a company that is popular but has a very important mistake that can push many customers away.
And that brings me back to that quality over quantity.
Yes, there
Yes.
should be a balance, because
Yes.
most companies focus on quantity, what can be counted, sale, market share, productivity, and so on.
Yes.
There is
Yes.
a famous thinker that observed, not everything that counts can be counted, and everything that can be counted counts. So this
Absolutely.
means that in some cases, things that can be counted are not so important, and things that cannot be measured precisely, for example, camaraderie, compassion, commitment, loyalty, these are very important, because these are the basis of relationship. We have to understand that the building brick of any business project, any business endeavor, is the human being. If you do not care for this human being, you are in big trouble. And
Yes.
caring for the human being doesn't mean, I want to add one point that is important, doesn't mean only meeting their economic needs.
Yeah.
Because this is also another mistake that we observe in practice. Most companies say, okay, I'm paying this employee a good salary, that's it. I'm done with this. This is, I have this, everything resolved. But this is not enough, because all stakeholders, including employees and customers, are multidimensional beings. This means that they have different type of needs. They have economic needs. For example, an employee, a good economic need will be need to have a good salary for their livelihood. But they have emotional needs too. They need to be recognized. They need to be appreciated. They need to be supported. They need to be supported so that they can enhance and apply their skill, for example, through mentoring, through coaching, training on the job. But also they need to be appreciated for their jobs and their work. For example, a thank you note, a
Yeah.
handwritten thank you note. But also they have mental needs. This means that they need to have stimulating workplaces where they can see new projects, learn new things, develop new abilities, and also they have social needs. I see some cases, workplaces where employees are so isolated, they're on their own, they cannot connect to others, even during the breaks, so that they get bored, they get demotivated. Instead, other companies try to develop most of their project in a collective way. In
Yeah.
some cases, they develop brainstorming meetings where everyone can give their opinion, they can develop a new project jointly. So we have to understand that there are many types of needs:
Yeah.
emotional needs, mental needs, economic needs, social needs, among others. So most companies tend to focus only on the economic needs.
Yes. Yes. And it's you're right. And it's also empowering the employees to be able to say that they don't feel like they're needed there. It's that common statement that everyone is disposable, but no one wants to feel disposable. So since we are close to our 20 minutes, and I'm not just debating the time or anything, but I do want to know, I know you work with the bigger companies, and with our audience, I'm sure there's a ton of employees that are listening to this. What tips do you have for employees
Very important,
regarding compassionate?
very
Yes.
important. The tips are very actionable. So first off, very simple to apply. Don't wait for others to change. The change starts with you. Doesn't matter your role, your position, you can always generate positive change. Try to ask yourself this self-reflection question on a daily basis. How can I be more generous with my colleagues and with other stakeholders? How can I be more supportive and kinder with different stakeholders? Why is so important? Because according to research, generosity bring about more generosity in the workplace and bring about more trust and bring about more cooperation. Some might say, oh, but I don't have so many resources. I cannot be generous with, for example, if I am the manager, I cannot be generous with my subordinate because I cannot give a bonus.
Yeah.
Generosity implies giving tangible things when you can, but also giving intangible things. Generosity could be that you give an ear to listen to their problems, or you give some coaching. These are intangible things, or you give some support, or you give some technical information. Why is so important? Because there is a principle in social psychology of reciprocity. When you are behaving in a generous way, others are likely to behave alike
Yeah.
in a similar way. When you behave in a self-centered way, you think about only your own objectives. For example, these salespeople that were thinking about their commission, other people react also in a self-centered way. So these questions are very easy to apply. How can I be more generous? How can I be more compassionate? How can I be much kinder and grateful with different stakeholders? And you will see that you can apply to colleagues, but also you can apply to customers. Can I
Yeah.
be more generous with this customer? Can I provide with free information, free training, so
Yeah.
that they can, or for example, I can support them after they bought the product, they can call me 24/7. So did they have any doubt, any clarification? Generosity begets generosity because when you are generous with people, people feel indebted and they feel compelled to reciprocate.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.